Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel Design with Cracker. This is a continuation of our series on header and navigation masterclass, and we're going to build a custom mobile menu. You've probably used the stock mobile menu that ships with Oxygen. Truth is, it's very basic with very little control, and you don't have the ability to place anything you need inside of it. Now let's take a look at how the stock mobile menu looks like in Oxygen. So now if we go here, so this is what we get, just that, bland. You really can't do much. You can't place stuff. It covers the whole screen. You can't see your logo. So it's not really the best, you know, and it could be better. So today we're going to build something like this, where the menu, you know, it's like this, okay? And then as you go further, you can see that, and then as you go further, that jumps here. So this is what we are going to build. All right, let's start. So from a previous tutorial, I have the header. I also have a header row, so just one header row, and inside it I have a logo, inside a logo wrapper, and a menu. Okay, so this is for the desktop menu. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly rename this to desktop menu, simply because we're going to create our own menu. So what I'm going to do is, inside this header row, okay, I'm going to add a div, and then I'm going to call that div mobile menu wrapper. Okay, and then I'm going to just change the ID to the same thing, mobile menu wrapper. All right, so that's it. And that div, I'm gonna make it a width of 100%, and then I'm gonna make it white. Okay, and now at these breakpoints we're not gonna see it, so let me just go in here and make it display none, and let's start working at say less than 768. Okay, now this is when the mobile menu actually kicks in. Okay, so I'm now going to display it like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the desktop menu, and then I'm going to set it to display none. Okay, all right, so we have this mobile menu wrapper. Now we'll make sure we're going to set the heading. Okay, our header, actually we're going to set our header to display relative. So at the higher breakpoint, I think we already have that set. Yep, that is already set from our previous tutorial. So this is relative. Okay, and then let's go back. So I'm going to go to the mobile menu wrapper, and then I'm going to set the position to relative, to absolute. Okay, and then the top is going to be 100% from the top, and then this is going to be 0, and this is going to be 0. All right, now it appears our row doesn't go all the way to the end, and that's probably because the header has some paddings on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away the padding from the header. Okay, all right, and then I'm going to set that padding to the row, so we can have 620. All right, so that makes our mobile menu wrapper collapse all the way to the end. Okay, and we'll probably need to set some paddings to the mobile menu. Okay, so let me just give it 20 pixel padding left and right. All right, the next thing we're going to do is to drop a menu inside of it. Now for now, let's set the height to 400. Okay, and then let's go in, and then we're going to set we're going to give it a transition duration. Okay, so effect transition, so let's make it like 0.4 seconds. Timing function is in out, and then the CS property we're going to animate will be the height. All right. Okay. Okay, so let's drop a menu inside. So I'm just gonna type menu. I'm gonna drop a menu inside it. Okay, and then I'm gonna go to mobile responsiveness. For this menu, we're gonna say do not, never toggle. Don't turn it to a toggle. Okay. And then now one thing with menu is that if I want to set this to vertical, now before that, let me just select my logo. My menu. And then if I want to set it to vertical here, it's not going to work. For menu, you just have to go you have to go out, to set that to vertical here. And of course, we don't want that menu to display in this breakpoint, but it doesn't really matter because it's already inside a menu wrapper, which is already set to none. Okay. So let's go back to 768. So you can see now we have that. Now, for the menu, we're going to make the width 100%. Okay. And then, okay, next thing is I want to remove all these tiles. Okay, so I'm just going to go into hover and active and take away that. Now, the problem with these menus is most of the styles you have to do them from this top, the largest breakpoint, but this is working. Okay, so that's fine. And then I'm going to go into the spacing. Let's give this 20 top. Let's go here. See. So that's the problem, with these menus. So let's just go back to the highest breakpoint, okay? And then I'm gonna set this to display so that we can, just set this up here. So I'm going to remove, yeah. Okay, so it's not, okay, I'm gonna leave that. So let's look at this, and then we're gonna make the width 100%. Okay. Yeah, the width of this menu, we're gonna make it 100%. So let's go there. Okay, so let's do that 100%. Okay, and now we're gonna go back to the menu setting, the spacing. Okay, so we can adjust the spacing the way we want. Okay, 16, 16. Okay, so that's a lot. So let's make it 12, 12. All right, and then let's go back to the smaller breakpoint. All right, so from here we can start making the adjustments the way we want. I'm gonna go in here. Okay, so the next thing, let's go to layout. I want to move this menu all the way here to align to the right. So I'm gonna just display flex, and we're gonna justify content flex in, that brings it here. And for the menu wrapper, okay, I just want to give it some paddings. Let's just give it a padding of 2 rem. Okay, let's apply that to all. I'm not sure if that's too much. Let's just make it so that can be adjusted. Okay, so this can be 2. All right, 2. Okay, so we are sort of done with that. Okay. All right, so the next thing is let's just let's go back to that breakpoint. Then for our bugger, okay, the trigger, yeah, so we're still gonna add a div inside the inside the header row. Okay, so we have that div there, so I'm just gonna move it above the menu. I'm gonna rename that to trigger. Okay, or not trigger, I think I'd rather call it a toggle. All right, and also I think I'd like to give the ID of toggle. All right, let's give it the ID of toggle. Yep. Okay, so for that I'm gonna give it a width of let's say 50, 50. Okay, so in Oxygen forces this to be 80 by 80. So for that to work, I'm just gonna give it that minimum width to override that Oxygen's minimum width of 80. Okay, so let's go back to our device and hide this toggle. Okay, so that toggle is going to be hidden. okay, in all device, but here it's gonna display, let's display block, okay. And then for these also, in all device, we're gonna hide it again. All right, and I believe it's still displayed here. So we have that. Now for the toggle, we're gonna start building our toggle. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to add a code block. Okay, so let's add a code block. Not inside the toggle, just right outside. I'm just gonna call this mobile menu code. All right, so inside there, I'm gonna write the code for the toggle. So let's just call this toggle. All right. So we're using the ID toggle, okay. And then I'm just gonna give it, now I want the pointer. Let's just go in and turn off this. Okay. All right, so first thing I want to do is I want the cursor to be pointer. So I'm just gonna say cursor pointer. All right, so that changes to that. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write for the before element, okay. And then first thing with that is the contents, which will be that empty. The position for these, okay, will be relative. Okay, so we're gonna make this position absolute. And then I want to make the width, let's just put the background color first. Okay, so the background, I want the background to be let's say white. Okay, and then we want the width of, say, maybe 28 pixel and a height of, say, 2 pixels. Okay, so it's really not showing anything. Okay, so let's see, position is absolute. Let me write something here, apply the code. Okay, nothing is showing. Okay, let's go back to the code. Let's see, why is it not showing toggle? Okay, that's the ID, and this toggle before, okay, that's a space there. Okay, so it's showing up now. So we had a space here, so that's the reason. Now the position was absolute. Okay, so I'm just gonna do I think I'll take away the width, okay, and then I'm just gonna do left 0, okay, right 0, okay. So that fills this in, and I can now go into that toggle and change the size to what I really want. So let's just make this with let's say 40/40. Just make that smaller. Yep. Okay, let's go back to the code. Okay, I think that works. Okay, so let's set the top to be, say, 50%. Okay, and of course we're moving it 50%. All right, and then so I'm going to move to transform. So translate, we're going to translate Y, let's say -5 pixels. It's going to move a little bit upwards, and then I'm going to copy this and then change this to after. Of course the contents will have to be out. Okay, and then this will be translate 5. Okay, so let's see how that looks. So that's how it looks. Okay, All right, let's go back to the code, save. Now, what I want to happen is when we click on this, I want it to, to cross, okay? Now, I want to give this a transition, okay? So I'm just going to take this before, okay, and after. Transition, okay. I want the transition to be like maybe say 0.2 seconds, okay. And then of course what we want to transition is the transform property. All right, okay. Now what I want is a situation where now let's go to the front end and see. Now I'm going to refresh this. So now this is what we have, okay. So we want a situation where, when we click this is going to cross, okay. Let's use the inspector style sheet to look at that. We want to add an active class to the toggle, okay. So the toggle, I'm going to add an active class to it because we want to use active. We want to use the active state, okay, for the toggle to write the CSS. So now I'm going to say toggle, okay, dot active, no space, okay, before, okay. Now notice the active state is already applied here, so we're going to transform, translate, the translate y, we're going to translate it to 0, so that moves to 0. And then we're going to rotate it, okay, so 45 degree. All right, and that's all. So I'm just going to copy this. Now change this to after, okay, and I'm going to change it to -5. Okay, so that happens. So once the class is active, it changes to that. So we're going to copy that and we're going to paste it here. All right, so we have our active class ready to go. So let's check. We have a menu, okay. We have a menu wrapper. It's called mobile menu wrapper. We have a toggle, the ID is toggle. So we're going to go back to the code, go to JavaScript. So right now we're going to write the JavaScript, a very short one. So we're going to ensure that this code runs only after all the documents have been loaded on the page. So Windows will add event listener, okay. Oops, content loaded, right. So all our code will be inside here. So we're going to create some constant variables. So we're going to create menu is equals to document dot query selector, okay. And then that menu is going to be the mobile menu wrapper, okay. Then I'm gonna create another one that will be the menu trigger, or I could just call it trigger, but let's just leave it as menu trigger. So it's gonna be document.query selector, and that will be the toggle. All right, and then we're gonna write, when we click on the menu trigger, okay, menu trigger dot on click, we're gonna call a function open menu. So let's create that function. So we're gonna say function, okay, open menu. All right, and that function is gonna say take the menu and add toggle a class list. So menu.classList.toggle. So we're gonna add the class of active to the menu once we click this, and if you click it again, it's going to remove it. So that's toggle. And we also want to add a class of active to the menu trigger. Okay, menu trigger dot class list dot toggle. Okay, also active. All right, so let's see what happens. So I'm going to refresh this, and then I'm going to click this. So it toggles that class. So if you take a look at this, if I click, you can see that it adds the class active to it. Okay. All right. So how do we solve this? How do we do something about this? First of all, this is not getting to the end. So what's the problem? Let's see. The mobile menu wrapper is supposed to be 100% width. I thought we had a width of 100% there. It's not affecting it. Okay. All right, so there is there's a padding here, but it doesn't affect that section. All right, so we'll sort that out. Let's just continue. It's just let's not waste time on this. Okay, we'll sort out why that is not full screen. So if we, okay, I can see why there. So that padding. Okay, so we set that to 0, okay, but it didn't work here. So the padding is still, this is 20, okay, the header row, but we want it to be, let's see, so it's not supposed to affect it, okay, it's not supposed to affect. Okay, so it's the header that is a problem. I think we already set that padding to 0, but this inner section. So let's just go back and set it on the ID level. Okay, if we haven't done that already. All right, so I'm gonna set that 0 here. So let me just save that and refresh. Okay. So yeah, so that works. Okay, so that works. All right, now let's do something about this. It's showing. By default, we don't want that to show. Okay, that is the mobile menu wrapper. So by default, we're going to set that height to 0. We're going to set all the paddings to 0. Okay, everything should be 0. We don't want the paddings, we don't want padding top and down, 0. That means we are going to wrap, we need to wrap this, you know, with another wrapper so that we can use that to apply the paddings, okay? Or alternatively, we can give this margin. So if I go back up here, okay, and then I just say, let's give it a height of 400, okay? So we don't have something on the padding on the top and on the bottom, but on the menu we could set a top padding. Okay, so I could set a top padding of let's say, sorry, yeah, 1 rem at the top there, and also 1 rem at the bottom. So that could work. All right. So there's already a padding on the side. We're okay with that, and yep. And the menu, what we did here was, let's go in to the text and then, yeah, that works. I think that's what we should have done before. Even if we go back to all the breakpoints and then turn this off, I think we should be okay. Yeah, we're okay. So setting that text alignment to the right, you know, was all we needed to do. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's go back and set this to 0. Okay, now what we want to do is once we add an active state, okay, an active state to this, of course the overflow has to be hidden. So because this is showing through, so overflow should be hidden. So when we add the active state, we want this to be a height of, let's say, 400 or 450. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this, and then I'm going to go to that mobile menu code, okay, and then let's just call this menu wrapper. Okay, all right, so that's going to be mobile menu wrapper. Should have given that a shorter name, .active. Okay, now we're going to give it a height of let's say 350 pixels. Now you adjust this according to the height of your menu, and let's just save that and see what happens. Now we've already said when we click on this, it's going to add an active class to that wrapper. So I'm going to save that. Yep. Okay. So that works. Okay, that's cool. I'm trying to figure out why that is. Okay, so that's the header row, and the header. So the header row is the header row also position relative? Okay, it's also position relative. So I think if we turn that off, yeah, it's going to be right below our header. So let's turn off position relative for the header row, okay, so that our header will be the only positioned relative. So we have our header was position relative, so we don't want the header row to be that. Now that value is from the previous from the previous tutorial. So I'm going to override that with the ID. So I'm just going to change it to static. Okay, so if I refresh this, all right, so that works. Okay, so I think this is basically what we want to do. Okay, let's go ahead and add some more things. Now the next thing I want to do is when I open this, I need some shadows here. Okay, so I'm going to go to a website, Brom Shadow. Okay, nice website. And then I'm just going to do a nice shadow. So what I want is I need something, layers of shadow, quite some layers, vertical distance, horizontal distance, no. So I just need something like that. Final transparency, something like that. And I'm just going to copy this. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the code block under the mobile menu wrapper.active. I'm going to paste that shadow. Okay. Let's see. So that, let me refresh this. So when it comes up, there's going to be a shadow under it. Okay, so you see that shadow that creates a contrast, okay, between the menu and the content of the page. So it creates that nice contrast. Okay, I don't like this animation. It's too slow. I need something that moves a bit faster. So I think what we had there for these was here where we had I think it was here where we had the transition. So I want the transition to be 0.2. Okay, so yep, 0.2 should be it. So that should work. Let's not waste time with that. Now the next thing is we want a situation. Okay, now it's fast enough. We want a situation where now if I click this, okay, now if I click any of these items, this menu will close, or if I click out or outside, the menu is going to close. Okay, because sometimes you may have a one-page website where if you click, you don't want the menu to be hanging on there, so you want it to close. So to do that, we need to write a script that will say, if we click on any other place apart from this and apart from the menu trigger, just close it. Let's just go in and do that. Okay, so we're gonna write, so we're gonna say document dot on click. Okay, cross the function. All right, and that function will be, and okay, so we're gonna say if the event target, okay, is not the menu, okay, if it is not the menu, and if the event target, okay, is not the menu trigger. All right, so we're gonna check if the menu trigger, okay, already has a class of active. So you want to check that because we want to make sure that you don't do what we want to do next. Okay, so we're going to see e the target dot on click. So on clicking that target, we want to call we want to trigger a menu, a click on the menu trigger. So we just say menu trigger dot click. So when we click the menu trigger, it's going to call this function again and toggle the class list for both of them, okay, for both the menu and the menu trigger. So let's save that, and then I'm going to refresh this and just make sure that this works. Okay, so if you click outside, it closes. If you click that, it closes. If you click that, it closes. Click that, it closes. All right, so that's it. Now from here on, you can drop things inside the menu. Okay, of course, while you're working on it, you can always go in there and probably add the class active to it. Okay, just add that class active so you can see what is going on. Later you can remove it. Now so here we can add a button. Okay, so I'm just going to add a button, and here I'm going to set, no, not on the active, I'm going to set my alignment to the right. Okay, so we need more space on that active, on that code because of this button. But first of all, let me just write my button get started. Okay, I don't know if I have any button class. All right, I think I have a button class. All right, nice button class. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go to the code, mobile menu code, to the CSS, to the active. Okay, I'm just going to take the height up to, let's say, 390 or 400. Okay, now we can make this height auto, but if you make the height auto, you will not be able to animate it. Okay, so let's make that height like that. So you just have to set the height. Okay, so I'm just going to make that 420. All right, so we have that here, so we can actually drop stuff inside there. Okay, so we have that. Wait a minute. Okay, so we still have our active class. So I'm going to go back and take out that active class. All right, save. And then come here. All right. Okay, so what in a situation where, like personally, I don't like having a menu like this with all these spaces. Okay, so at this screen size, I don't want my menu to look like this, and at this screen size, I still feel that there's enough space to still have the call to action button. All right, so what I would prefer to do is to have my menu at, let's say, from 480. Okay, and then bigger than that, I want this to be spread out. So what I'm going to do is, so let's take a look at this. Okay, so OxyNav menu list. Okay, now OxyNav menu list. Now if we go to Inspector style sheet, okay, so we could just say, now I'm going to, so that this doesn't apply to all my, all the menu on the site, so I'm just gonna say mobile menu. So only the menus that are inside the mobile menu wrapper. Okay, so .oxy nav menu list. I think that was it. So I'm just gonna say flex direction. Just make it row. Okay. Justify content. Center. All right, so I just have that. Now all these are going to be inside a media query, but let me just write that out. Okay, so I'm still going to take this dot active. Okay, I'm just going to say height maybe 80 pixels. Okay, so we have just that. Now this will apply only at a breakpoint of say maybe 600, and at something like from here 600, and yeah, from there upwards. Anything smaller than that should collapse into the way it was before. So 600 and say 667 also. So I'm gonna say at media, okay, minimum width 667 pixel. You can adjust that to suit your taste, and then I'm gonna make this, copy this and put it there. So you see, now at that breakpoint, I don't want this button, okay, to be there. So let's go inside and see what we can do. See the code, go all the way down there and paste that. Okay, now at that breakpoint, let's check our breakpoint. So we have 768. So that means okay, so what do we do? Let me close this. Oh no need. So we still want to have the button here, okay, until what breakpoint? All right, let's save this and preview. Preview that. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna have that button. So let's say if I were to have a button, okay, let's say 769, all the desktop menu is gone. So you want to put a button. So I'm going to duplicate this button. You want to put a button beside the desktop menu, and then you don't want it to show from 768. Okay, so it's going to be display none below that, but anything above that, okay. So anyway, it's kind of tricky because of my setup. Okay, so it's really tricky. It's really tricky because of my setup. Yeah, I think so. So I think it should be display none from here. Okay, and then here it's just display block. Okay, and then here display none. All right, I'm not quite sure if that is going to work. Then the button, this button, anything above this. Okay, let's just save that and see what happens. I think we're basically done, but these are just extra. So so you can see that you have that, and then Now so you have this, so at 480, okay, we want this to appear at 480, so that this particular button will be display none on all device, and then at 480 it's going to display block. Okay, and of course at this point we want to give the button a right padding, yep, right margin, let's say 20 pixels. Is that what we are selecting? No, it's supposed to be this button. Okay, it's supposed to be this button. Alright, so just move it a bit away from that. Alright, I think that's that should bring an end to our, so we have this, you know, that once this big menu disappears, we have a call, you know. I'm this assuming that you had this, you wanted to have a button at the header, but if you didn't want to have a button, you know, I think, alright. So do you think this can still fit in this up till where 600? So if we try to make that 600, all these are just tweaking, that's all. Let's say 600, okay? Okay. Let's see how that will work. Yep. So it still works. Up to 600 is still good, okay? Then you do that. Then you do that. Okay, so that brings an end to our mobile menu tutorial. Okay, custom mobile menu. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and the code will be available in the description, so you could just copy it and paste, just set up your stuff, replace your better still, just give it the same, you know, IDs. So you don't have to replace anything, but if you of course you know what I'm talking about. All right, thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye.